Continuous recording will now start. Flag A for your safe driving. Starting normal recording.
What kind of techie would I be if I didn't have all sorts of gadgets? So my morning grind usually includes a late breakfast, which means I don't eat lunch. And then based on the schedule, I'll figure out what time it makes sense to go to the gym, which is what I'm going to do right now. I've spoken of this, I think, several times at this point, but I realized I needed to develop my strength, especially my upper body. I haven't really worked on my legs, but I've had a gym membership for several years now, but the primary reason for it before was for the shower, because I was living out in my motorhome for a while to avoid a rent bill. Now I'm staying at a friend's house, so I don't necessarily need that resource, but I never stopped paying for the gym. So I decided in recent months that I may as use my downtime to do whatever I can to stay healthy, both physically and mentally. And I do feel better when I do it. When I go exercise for about an hour and a half, I work on my arms and back, basically. Specifically because I wanted to get my upper body strength in a position where I was safer lifting my mom in and out of her bed or chair. So, with the downtime, I've been looking for direction since my mind tends to wander. The gym is about 15 minutes from where I normally stay. I'm thankful for a reliable car. I bought this Toyota 3 years ago. It hasn't hiccuped since I had the engine rebuilt. Thankfully, I got this thing because my Samurai was leaking like a sieve. That was a funny experience. Drove that thing onto the dealership lot, leaking fluid everywhere. And the coolant had sprung a leak, and I was just tired of it. I still have that car. I just got tired of putting money into it and having to rely on it, knowing it wasn't reliable. A car with literally 400,000 miles. And I had probably put half of that mileage on that car in 15 years. I bought it for $2,000 off my sister, maybe 15 years ago. I forgot exactly what year that was. Well, anyway, she never bothered to learn how to drive a stick. She legally owned the car. She broke up with her boyfriend, and I had to go get it from her. There's your short story. So I was up in Atascadero by Morro Bay area. And, not Morro Bay, what is it? Atascadero. Pismo Beach, there we go. Yeah, so I had to go get the car from her because she didn't know how to drive a stick. After I finally got it home, I decided, well, I think I like this car. So I drove the boatload out of that car. That Suzuki Samurai was my daily driver for 15 years. Still have it. It sits on a friend's lot in the desert with the motorhome. My motorhome also is that's got a story too, but I lived out of that while I started paying for my gym membership so that I had a shower. The motorhome has its own shower, but it was street parked. So the street parking meant that I didn't have a rent bill, and I was able to sleep safely in a neighborhood. The gym was giving me a resource so that I could bathe. And then we all got shut down 5 years ago. So the gym shut down. So a friend took me in, let me start showering at his house. But I never used the gym to actually work out. So just a few months ago, I decided, let's use the downtime. If I'm not finding a job, it's not going to cost me any money to just feel good and work out. So I spent an hour and a half doing the pulley machines, mainly on my arms and my back. So now you all know a little bit more about me. I have a total of three clunker vehicles. My daily driver is an old XP, 12-year-old XP. So none of them are worth more than 10 grand. So while I'm not technically a typical car guy, I do enjoy my technology, even if it's a couple of old beater cars. So I'm off to the gym. I'll spend an hour and a half there. I'm gonna go home, actually shave, and make a few visits with some clients. One of my clients I recently visited just got their internet upgraded, but they still have 3 or 4 very old iMacs. Not very old, old enough to replace. They're like 6 or 7 years old. So I'm gonna go and use my downtime to see how they're doing and see if they're willing to replace them, because I usually like to tell people to replace your computer means it's easier while your existing computer works. You don't want to have to call me in a bind, because then I have to interview you and figure out what we're losing. Because if you didn't back up, I don't think they're backed up. So I need to make sure they're backed up and willing to throw some money at replacing. I think they have 4 or 5 2018 or 19 iMacs. So we'll talk about replacing those sooner than later. I just saved them money because their internet was being underutilized and they were being overcharged. It didn't occur to me, their ISP, I think it was Spectrum, charging them for 2 internet connections. They were hooked up to this lower one. It never occurred to me that they might have 2 connections working simultaneously. They weren't using their faster copper connection, they were using their more secure fiber connection. I guess that's how it was sold to them. So I looked at their bill. I couldn't figure out why they were paying like $800 a month for an internet connection and only getting 50 megs down. So after I jumped on the phone with tech support, I figured out what was actually going on. And this is only my 2nd or 3rd time on the phone, because it didn't occur to me before when I called them. I think the first time I called them, I just wanted to know what they were actually paying for versus what I was seeing. 50 megs seems like a slow output, or a slow download. So, a couple weeks ago I jumped on the phone, got tech support out. They actually had to send a guy out and physically move the connection, because the faster connection, which was actually the copper connection, was in a different office. So that was beyond the scope of what I was wanting to deal with. So I said, pay them their $100 service fee, get them to move the coax connector where all the hardware is, in the corner of the warehouse. So in about a half hour, they were smoking. Now the internet is a whole lot more reliable. This is the first sun I've seen in California in like 2 weeks. Yeah, this is a Thursday and it's finally sunny. It was real dreary for more than a week anyway. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I can develop a database of companies that can utilize me. I talked to a friend yesterday. He said to look up the SIC codes for the county of LA. So I gotta go sit in front of a computer and figure out how easy that is. Hopefully it doesn't cost me too much money. If I have to spend $5 or $10 to access the database, that's fine, but I can't be throwing around $50 at a time here or there and potentially not make me crash coming. I don't know what that's going to look like or if we're in the thick of it now. I'm hoping it doesn't last long or we don't fall very deep. As a technician, I'm more like the dentist, so I'm not in the luxury business. It's my understanding that the luxury businesses fall first. Because even people with money don't spend money on luxury services or products when the economy fails or is falling. We'll see. I'm coming up on the gym, so I guess that's all I have to say right now. I might be back later today.